Most people have their own habits. Compared to other people, I also have my distinctive behavior. Whenever I go back home or to my dormitory house, I always lock both the original and additional fasteners again and again, even though there's some in there. And there is a background story how I got to have this habit. To introduce this story, I have to cast back to my childhood. It happened on Wednesday when I was in the third grade of elementary school. In my elementary school, all classes ended early, about at noon, every Wednesday. So that day, I also left my school with my friends early, as usual. On the way back home, however, suddenly rain started to pour down. So then I remembered that I had put my umbrella in my backpack because my mom had told me to. But I always wanted to just walk through the rain without umbrella because I was young and I always thought that having fun in the rain would be same with having fun in the pool. And I also remembered that my mom had an appointment that day and there was nobody waiting for me at home, and that meant that my mom would never know whether I was wet or not. And as my friend also was interested in my thoughts, we just kept walking in the rain without umbrella. And as we expected, it was really funny and exciting. And the fact that it was totally wet made us think that there was no restriction at all. And this thought made us really happy. And we just walked across the puddles intentionally, and we threw water toward each other from puddles. And as it was lunchtime and our town was small, there was not many people walking down the street, so nobody looked at us or scolded us. After having fun about 15 minutes, I got close to my house. So I just said goodbye to my friend and came back home. And my house was on the first floor of the apartment, so I just unlocked the door and ran into my room because I had to get my dry clothes to put on after having a shower. And then, as I expected, there was nobody in the house. So after putting down my backpack and bringing my dry clothes, I entered the shower room, which was located in the corner of my parents' room. And my parents' room was the furthest room from the door of our house. And that meant that the shower room was the deepest room in my house. And this fact was really important is really important in my story. Anyway, I entered the shower room and closed the door because if I didn't, it would be really freezing after having a shower. And I took a shower about 15 minutes and put on my dry clothes and opened the door, and that moment the nightmare started. The first view I saw the moment I opened the door was a total mess. All the things that had been put on my mother's dressing closets that was put right next to the shower room were fallen on the floor, and I was really shocked and scared because that meant that something happened while I was having a shower. So I couldn't move, so I just stood there looking at the floor. And I also couldn't move or took a step because if I do that, I could make a noise and also I could meet a stranger in my house. So I just concentrated on the sounds outside of my parents' room, but I couldn't hear anything, so I just plucked up my courage and went out of my parents' room. And the situation out of my parents' room was even worse. All the things that had been in the closets or drawers or on the table were all fallen, and some of them were broken, and chairs or tables were all fallen too. And after checking the situation briefly, I just stood in the middle of the living room, looking at looking down the floor of the living room. I couldn't raise my head because if I raised my head, I thought I could see the eyes of the stranger that could be there. So, and I just, for a while, I just looked down without any thoughts. And suddenly I found that the left part of the floor was full of sparkling things. So I was surprised and raised my head, and the window was totally broken. And that meant that obviously some guy entered my house through the window and did this mess. So, however, it was not certain whether that guy was still there or not, so I just ran out of my house through the door and ran to the public phone box, which was located near my house. And I made a phone call to my mom, and fortunately she was having an appointment near my house, so she just told me to go back to my apartment and wait for her about 3 or 5 minutes. So I just did, and after 3 minutes, when I saw my mom running toward me, I just felt very relieved. So that moment, everything around me was a total black. To me, it was like 5 seconds, but after that 5 seconds, when I opened my eyes, I could see my mom shouting and hugging me, and she told me that I was freaked out about 5 minutes there. And after checking my mental and physical status, she called the police, and they together checked the situation of our house, and they found that we lost some valuables like my mother's gold accessories or my father's electrical devices, but there was no direct harm to my family, and that fact was the most important thing to us. So we just thank God. However, from then, whenever I entered the place restricted, I always felt it was dangerous or unsafe because I thought some guy was looking at me, staring at me from the third place, and even though I knew the fact that the thief didn't enter our house through the door, I started to lock the door again and again because that behavior made me feel comfortable, and it made me feel safer. So I do this behavior, and this is how I got to have this strange behavior. Thank you for listening.